Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. Mark Twain said, "There's something fascinating about science. One gets such wholesale returns of conjecture out of such a trifling investment of fact." We see this all the time in academia, and here's a very good example from the World Economic Forum. Venus was once Earth-like, but climate change made it uninhabitable. I saw this and broke out laughing because the conjecture is utterly absurd. The rotation of Venus is very slow, so an afternoon lasts thousands of hours. Even before the atmosphere thickened, it would have gotten extremely hot in the afternoon and any water would have boiled away. Because of the slow rotational speed, oceans could have never developed on Venus. But never mind science, this is what the World Economic Forum had to say. Venus once likely had an Earth-like climate. But less than 1 billion years ago, the climate dramatically changed due to a runaway greenhouse effect. It can be speculated that an intense period of volcanism pumped enough carbon dioxide into the atmosphere to cause this great climate change event. So according to climate alarmists, volcanoes can cause a runaway greenhouse effect, and at the same time, they don't cause global warming on Earth. This is some pretty impressive doublespeak by the climate cult. Going back to the World Economic Forum paper, this is their evidence that Venus was once like Earth. They say that this image is very similar to river flow patterns on Earth. Let's take a closer look at that image to see what they're talking about. As a geologist, this looks nothing like river flow patterns to me. These appear to be fissures in the planet down here, and up here this looks a lot like a lava flow. This is a recent lava flow located near Interstate 40 west of Albuquerque. There are flow patterns in it, but they're definitely not water flow patterns. This is a larger image of that lava flow west of Albuquerque. It looks very similar to the photograph from the World Economic Forum. And this is a nearby river drainage pattern where all of the flow lines come together and join into a single channel. This is a classic dendritic water drainage pattern. If you move upstream, you see these tree-like patterns. But there's not much evidence of that in the photograph from Venus. This looks a lot more like a lava flow. The World Economic Forum also included this image which showed these cracks crossing each other. Rivers do not cross each other. Water can't do that. This is particularly funny for me because it's a repeat of what happened with Mars 130 years ago. People misinterpreted imagery of Mars as being canal, so they concluded there was life on planet Mars, as the New York Times headlined. After that, we went through a century of mindless speculation in academia and the press about life on Mars. Nikola Tesla said he was communicating with Martians. The New York Times concluded that Martians are probably superior to us, which is likely true in the case of New York Times journalists. An intense debate raged in academia about why the Martians built their canals. The New York Times concluded that Martians had built 2 immense canals in just 2 years. High order of life on Mars. The fact that the Martian canals exist is no longer doubted even by the most religious astronomer. That sounds like consensus science to me. Scientists agreed that Martians were a super race. Mars holds life, Russell now says. Princeton professor once disbelieved, asserts new facts convince him. Mars signaling Earth, scientists believe. New Martian oasis seen, find clouds 20 miles up. Now we're up to 1948. Plant life exists on the planet Mars without doubt, according to the Soviet astronomer Grigory Tikhov. 1950, Dr. Clyde Tombaugh, the man who discovered Pluto, is convinced of life on Mars. In 1965, after the Mariner 4 spacecraft passed by Mars, Dr. Tombaugh drew very detailed imagery of the canals on Mars. Then in 1996, NASA pulled a new Martian scan, misinterpreting what they were seeing in Martian rocks as being evidence of life, and they stuck with that claim for a really long time. The New York Post explained that Martians could have been wiped out by global warming, which is the exact same claim which the World Economic Forum is making about Venus. Mark Twain was absolutely correct. Academic science gets such a wholesale return of conjecture out of such a trifling investment of fact. Carl Sagan said, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence," but the World Economic Forum had no evidence at all. It seems unlikely that Venusians were driving sport utility vehicles, but the World Economic Forum has an agenda to demonize fossil fuels. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on climate junk science for almost 16 years. You can visit him and his family on the web at realclimatescience.com.